Police are out blocking off roads just to try to keep the general public out, but they're letting people that are living in this area back in their homes. There are no evacuations underway at this point. Here to tell us more is Chief Thomas Leonard with Arcoma Police. Chief, thank you for joining us. Police say that they found 2 words, cousin and a word now believed to be Maxie, written in blood on the floor of Colin's home. It's actually just started snowing again, so if that continues, it might put more weight on these branches. Let me show you something else that's dangerous. This is just a solid piece of ice that came off a vehicle that drove through here, and there's a lot of this stuff that gets up under cars and fenders and gets trapped and packed, and it's dropping off of them on the roads as they're getting out and driving around. And if you hit this, that's the same thing as hitting a cinder block out here. Now, because these were broken down cars out here that were on fire, it presented a very dangerous situation for the firefighters that had to be in the thick of it this afternoon. It does mean that schools will have a definite set of resources to help teach about this tragedy, but administrators here in Pocola say that their teachers are already doing a thorough job presenting the story to students that are too young to remember April 19th, 1995. A lot of Arkansans turned out more than a year ago to vote for Act 1. In fact, 57% of voters approved the measure, but people we spoke to today said that they were pleased to see what they felt was an unfair law get overturned. A Greenwood police officer has returned from serving overseas, and he's brought back a souvenir from Iraq. We'll have more on that story. Thanks for waking up with 5 News this morning. It's Tuesday, October 9th. I'm Russell Jones in for Ashley Beck. This weekend, colder temperatures brought snow flurries to several parts of the state. Find out who saw the most snow and what that means for weekend travelers. Plus, wintry conditions are being blamed for a deadly accident on Interstate 540 near Fayetteville. We'll have the details. Good morning. It's Sunday, March 1st. Thanks for starting your day with 5 News this morning. I'm Russell Jones. It's a frigid morning for many in our area, and some of you are probably wondering if we'll see any more of that snow that we had yesterday. Meteorologist Alicia Wilson joins us now to tell us more. It was really nice to see it just when it first showed up.
Yeah, you know, it was a pretty sight to see.
I thought it was supposed to be April showers.
Well, March showers this time.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Ex-Walmart executive Tom Coughlin, while under house arrest, attended a banquet last week where guests drank alcohol and bid on firearms. According to a probation officer, Coughlin attended the Benton County chapter of the National Wild Turkey Federation's annual banquet because he's fundraising for the group as part of his required community service. The Alma Performing Arts Center has a jam-packed lineup of entertainment for the whole family this fall. Here to tell us about their next show full of high-flying fun is Teresa Schleybaugh. Good morning, Teresa. That's a mouthful to say.
It is. We're so excited about our next show coming up.
Well, tell us a little bit about it. It's called Le Cirque de Masque.
Yes.
And that visibility, you know, just being down like, what was it, a mile or a quarter mile at Fayetteville at one point? Definitely a day you want to leave early for work or to take the kids to school.
Oh yeah, you got to tack on that time because the last thing you need is to be in a hurry when you can't see ahead of you. So
exactly.
Pretty much I'm an open book when it comes to anything that I'm involved in.
John is a level 3 sex offender from Crawford County. Of course, that's not his real name. His identity has been masked for the sake of his victim. Several years ago, John was convicted of sexually assaulting a young boy and was required to register as a sex offender.
I have to be real cautious on how I live my day-to-day life. You know, where I go to church, what do I do during the day, that kind of stuff. I have to limit what I do.
John was assessed as a level 3 sex offender, which requires the community to be notified of who he is and where he's living, and also keeps him from being near certain places like schools. John says he went through years of therapy, and police say so far he stayed compliant with registry laws some offenders resist or completely ignore.
I feel that if a sex offender will abide by those rules and do what he's supposed to, then they're not going to have any problems.
When sex offenders move to Arkansas or get out of a state prison, they're required to come to this assessment center in Pine Bluff, where they're tested to determine how big a risk they could be to the community.
They come into this room here.
The process starts with a questionnaire. Offenders are asked about their sexual and criminal history and told to give their first responses to certain words or phrases. They're then interviewed about their answers and crime. If officials think they're not telling the truth, they administer a polygraph test.
Obviously, many times they're not as forthcoming as we would like for them to be.
Director Sherry Flynn has been with the assessment center since it started in 1999. She says they've made a lot of improvements since they first began, but are constantly finding ways to better evaluate sex offenders.
When we began in September of 1999, there were already 1,800 registered sex offenders, and the projection was that there would be 500 sex offenders added to the registry every year. In fact, there have been consistently around 1,000 a year.
Even if an offender immediately starts the process after their conviction, it takes about 3 months from start to finish. Flynn says while they're always looking for ways to make it more efficient, they'll never compromise the thoroughness of their program.
Sex offender management in Arkansas is better than it has ever been. And for the first time in the 23 plus years that I've been working with sex offenders, we are all on the same page and communicating with one another.
Having lived with the system for several years, John says he can see how important the assessment process is to keeping the public, as well as offenders like himself, safe.
Sometimes I think that that the law is harsh, but when you look at it from an overall perspective, you realize that this is a harsh crime, and that these rules are set in place to not only protect you, but also to protect the public as well.
For 5 News Most Wanted, I'm Russell Jones.
5 News at 10 starts now.
People are slowly returning to a local town after a fire ripped through one of the city's largest businesses. We'll update you on the Cargill plant fire in Boonville first. Plus, the Hogs are hanging up their dancing shoes after facing North Carolina in the NCAA tournament. We'll have a report from Raleigh coming up. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for your 5 News at 10. I'm Russell Jones. Easter Sunday was anything but calm and peaceful for many in the River Valley. A fire at the Cargill meat plant in Boonville forced people from miles around to evacuate. The fire broke out around 2 this afternoon and reduced the plant to rubble. Hazardous chemicals in the smoke kept crews from saving the building, but they did keep it from destroying nearby homes.
Very much a big deal. My house is right there, and that's my job, and it scared us.
Like many people in Boonville, Sheila Pearson was enjoying the spring weather Easter Sunday with a barbecue when her family saw fire trucks heading to the Cargill plant across the street from them.
It looked like just a tiny little fire, and on our way back about 20 minutes later, and I pulled in my driveway, there was a big explosion in the middle of the plant.
The Pearsons had cameras to record their happy holiday, but instead they and many others near the plant recorded tragedy. A fire that officials say started in the freezer section quickly spread to the entire plant, causing an ammonia leak. The hazardous chemical kept firefighters at bay and forced people from their homes. The plant was closed on Sunday, but several contractors were working inside when the fire started.
It was begun by some welders inside. The sparks accidentally caused a fire which moved very quickly through the plant.
We have evacuated the facility, and obviously with the direction of the wind, we have evacuated any homes that are in the surrounding area for safety precautions.
Besides the physical danger of the fire, many of Boonville's residents are now in financial danger. The Cargill plant is the top employer of the county, with more than 800 workers. With the plant gone, many people are wondering where their next paycheck is coming from, if it's coming at all.
Our main concern at this time, obviously, is the safety of anyone that's involved, anyone that's in the area. We'll determine economic impact later.
Now, Logan County officials say the evacuation order has been lifted for much of Boonville, and no other buildings sustained damage. They say it's safe for everyone to come home except for those who live on Helton Lane and Mario Del Perro Road. People who live on those roads cannot return until morning.